It's a snowy night here in my little tippity toppity corner of the Appalachian Mountains. I bid you good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever in the world you may be when you hear this.
Guten Tag.
Tonight we have a very special episode because this isn't just somebody that I met on the internet. This isn't somebody that I have stolen from another podcast or Art Bell. This is a good friend of
We did
mine,
kidnap him, though.
and he is in my basement.
Please
And
help.
we're gonna chat him up about the brush crawler here after the intro.
The truth is out there. Never stop looking. Never be sheep. Always disrupt. We are the ungovernable. We are the truth seekers. We are Sasquatchers.
And that concludes our intro. So now we're going to start talking to my buddy here. We have been friends for a few years now. So this is kind of a special episode of Sasquatchers. I finally get to bring another friend on that I can trust not to say terrible things that we will have to
Who was the
delete, delete and keep off of the internet forever, unlike the last couple of nunchucks that we decided to feature on the show. We're going to talk.
Officially doesn't exist, by the way.
It officially doesn't exist, and for good reason. But we're not going to have to worry about that because tonight we have John Doe. And John, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to our lovely Sasquatchers audience?
Sure, my name's John. And
Other John.
Hello, I'm the other John.
Other John.
all right, podcast over. Thanks for coming on.
And that concludes
My pleasure.
our episode. So we met a couple of years ago. We ended up working together, and it became pretty clear immediately that we were a great team, and we were underappreciated by every single numbskull in that company that we worked for. And eventually we chased ourselves out of there and have gone on to much greater and bigger things, which is why we went ahead and came up with the pseudonym of John Doe for you, because the things that we talk about on this podcast are kind of, they're fringe and not everybody understands them. So tonight you're going to be going by the name John Doe. And, I never will forget when we first, the first shift that we worked together, basically.
I'll never forget it either.
The things we did together, unsavory things that we can't speak of. We had a snowstorm very similar to the one that we're dealing with right now, which is the reason why I'm in this blanket. For those of us watching on our YouTube channel, I am nestled warmly in a blanket that I was mercilessly made fun of before hitting the record button.
What do you got under that flour tortilla there?
As you can see, not much.
Beans and rice.
Beans, rice, and everything that comes with it.
And everything nice.
All of the shredded cheese and guacamole.
I would love to just stick my spoon in your guacamole.
Most people would, but much like the best guac.
We're doing a podcast.
We're getting sad.
You guys all right? It's getting a little hot.
A lot of tension.
It's the snowstorm. It's we're going crazy. We're locked up. We're cooped up. It's cold out. I'm blizzarded into my house. But that's not very different than when you and I officially started working together. There's a terrible snowstorm, and you and I ended up bonding over the Mothman.
And Hellier, don't forget about that. You brought that up. What was that, last episode or a couple episodes ago?
Yeah. It's one of those things. I did casually not name drop you, but I casually slipped you into the conversation there a couple of weeks back when we were talking to Bob and Brittany with the Hellier thing. And that's we talked about synchronicities and whatnot, and still to this day it's happening every single week with this show. And I've noticed that other people have been talking about it on their shows now as well. And
So, I don't know how much you remember from Hellier, but do you remember how they pointed out finding like the foil balloons just randomly in the woods in random spots?
yeah, and that happens like all the time now.
Yeah. Every time you know how much time I spend out in the woods randomly. Literally almost every time I go out in the woods, I see a foil balloon somewhere stuck in the weeds or in a tree or usually on the ground. And I don't know if it's like what they try to make it out to be, or if it's kind of like how the phenomenon where you're like, I haven't seen this model of car in a while, and then suddenly you see them everywhere. If it's like that kind of
Right.
thing, you don't know to look for it until you think about it and then look for it, and then you see it everywhere.
I don't know the actual term for that, but I call it Grand Theft Auto cars, because anytime that you grab a new car in Grand Theft Auto, suddenly everybody's always driving it in the algorithm. And
Yeah.
so I always equated that to like some weird algorithm thing, which now kind of scares me and blows my mind and makes me think we might be part of the Matrix for real.
No,
Um,
you're just manipulating the universe
We're actually
unknowingly.
playing Grand Theft Auto San Andreas.
yeah, it happened a lot in that one, especially. But
Well, that's the best one. There's UFOs and stuff in there. There's buried alien bodies in the desert.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
there's the dude Panopticon with the chainsaw that was supposed to be like Leatherface. There was all kinds of like weird stuff you could look up, like Easter eggs. That was a great one. Anyways, do the podcast.
Hellier. So you were my introduction into Hellier, and so a lot of the things that I might have overlooked or not have been able to equate with in this podcast, none of that could have happened if not for you and our friendship and the bond that we have created. So in some small way, you should be credited as one of the things that eventually brought this podcast together. So since day one, I have wanted you on this show because we always talk about this stuff and you've had experiences, and it's just, it's time to get them on our show. And this is one of those times where it just feels like I'm excited just to talk to my pal. We don't have anything to promote. There's no book, there's no movie. This is just somebody who I stand by 100%. Everything that you say, the audience can take my word for it if they're not willing to take yours, that this is truthful, honest. And I have always kind of held you back from reiterating this story because I do vaguely remember you kind of telling me bits and pieces of this. But since this podcast has been created, I knew this was going to be an episode.
Yeah, it was just trying to battle out when it could happen.
Yeah, and this is very last minute. If it wasn't for the snowstorm, I would be in Ohio with John right now, out there filming our super secret documentary that
been mixing our guacamole.
Yeah, exactly. A little salsa with the guac, and mix it all together.
There you go. Just scar the melon heads for life. Really make them worse.
That's our intentions.
They escaped from like what, a mental asylum or something.
Yeah, a couple different stories, but we can't talk. We're not even supposed to be talking about this on here, Drew.
I said super secret. I'm not the one.
It's a surprise.
I'm not the one that broke the surprise.
You said you'd be out. You said you'd be out here filming melon heads with me.
I didn't say anything about the melon heads at all.
You did.
No, I didn't. I said our super secret documentary.
Oh, well, you want to start over?
Just go. No one's gonna listen to this anyways.
I don't know how this works. I'm not up on the lore here.
Damn it!
We already filmed that, so that's fine because this is gonna go up in a couple of weeks anyway.
Surprise.
So nothing has been ruined anyway, because I'm changing the uploads of our episodes. We're going back to weekly and storing episodes anyway. So this is a couple of weeks away. So everything is fine in the house of Sasquatchers. We don't have to worry about any.
That's great. I don't have to
Anything.
unalive myself now.
I need you to at least wait to unalive yourself to film.
That's
the
how
documentary.
That's how we're going to summon the melon heads. I'm going to offer myself as a sacrifice.
Lots of people do in that
To their
area.
squishy melon heads.
You wouldn't be the first.
But there's a couple stories, and you have to check out the documentary if you want to know what those stories are for where the melon heads came from.
Right. So
behind our paywall.
Yes, our very, very expensive paywall. You will pay for my children's college. OnlyFans. Sasquatchers.com/OnlyFans/Fansly/manyvids/ I've said too much. But
PBS.org/Arthur.
Arthur, oh man. I forgot about the aardvark.
Did you know that what's his name played the brain in that? The conservative talking head dude. I can't think of his name right now, so that was really dumb for me to even bring this up.
Conservative talking head.
Yeah. He's like younger, he's like our age.
Not. I don't know.
Why did I even
any
bring
of
this
those
up?
people would be? While you Google that, we're gonna go ahead. You find it?
No, Steven Crowder.
I honestly don't even remember Arthur the Aardvark enough to know who he would have played.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, I remember that he was an aardvark. I hated PBS. I didn't have cable when I was growing up. That was like all I could watch. It's that or Cornerstone. So
King of the Hill on Channel 8.
I read a lot of books when I was young instead.
I heard somebody the other day refer to King of the Hill as Texas anime, and it kind of made me sick.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Kind of lost a little bit more faith in humanity that day.
I don't like that at all because it's far from. It's, I mean, I don't know much about anime because I'm not a dweeb, and I apologize if any of our listeners are super into anime.
Yeah, alienate the audience.
Let me tell you about politics too while I'm at it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the president.
I never got into anime. It's not my thing. I don't think it's like super.
I like a couple animes, like Trigun and
Cowboy Bebop was
this
incredible.
Cowboy Bebop and Dragon Ball Z, obviously. You know, like what was on Cartoon Network when we got home after school?
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't have cable.
Exactly.
Right.
So
well, for us non-pores,
exactly.
Controversial standpoint here. I kind of see anime as like the Beatles. Like, I get there's like a lot of artistic value to some of it, and like, you know, a lot of efforts put into it, and it's good empirically, but it's not my thing, so I don't care for it.
Okay, so
I
you
don't like the
compared it
Beatles
to
either.
Compared it to the Beatles, so that means you validated everything that I wanted to say, that the only people that like it are self-indulgent fart sniffers.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's there. I said it.
Hey, careful here. We just had a priest on 20 episodes ago.
That's why I said fart sniffers.
Went from talking about demons to Texas anime.
Well, look, that bothers me because anime is notoriously cheap, and that's obviously not what I'm just too into King of the Hill to allow that assertion.
You know, I thought we were going to talk about monsters.
That's why we're here.
We're talking about everything physically possible except monsters.
That's what happens. That's what happens when you have friends on. Like, could you imagine if we tried to have this conversation with one of our guests? They would.
We have, and it didn't go well.
Yeah, exactly. That's why it's not.
We are blocked and reported.
Oh,
so, monsters, Mothman, brush crawlers. you witnessed a brush crawler, or a pale crawler, as they are often referred to. And now that we've broken the ice with all of those bantering conversations, why don't we get into this experience? Because I remember it being pretty actually terrifying. Or am I wrong?
Yeah, it was definitely. I mean, I'll explain the emotional response I personally had to my sighting. But I just want to go ahead and explain right off the bat that this is more than just my sighting. Like this little story I'm going to tell you here involves like a first-hand account from me, second-hand accounts, and then like an exhibit of localized mass hysteria on like a small scale. It wasn't like statewide or anything that large, but like I'm not the only one and I wasn't the first one. So I'll just preface with that. Like it was like an event, I guess. Kind
Small
of.
towns with monsters showing up tends to be that.
Yeah. But we never got the credit that, like,
We
Mothman
don't need
shows
that
up and levels a bridge and everyone's like, oh, let's have a festival.
Hey, you might get lucky.
Booze and bands.
Your singular McDonald's or dollar store in your town might end up leveled still,
We
It
did
could happen.
have, we just had a pony loose in Boswell. That made the news, and it reminded me of like my senior year whenever this kid I graduated with, his pig escaped and went to the only building in town, the Burger King, and held people up, and I think he bit somebody. And it was the funny thing was, I remember I was scrolling through Facebook that day, and my one friend shared the article, and the headline was "Pig Standoff at Burger King," and the picture for the article was two cop cars like parked like beside each other, and I was just like, oh, they're
cops
straight
up
up
the Burger King.
they're straight up pig standoff. They're straight up calling the cops altercation, out for what it is. And I was taken aback, and then I opened up the article and read it. I'm like, oh no, it's a literal pig. Like an actual pig was holding people up for food.
How many cops did it take for them to get that pig out of there?
I don't know. I don't know the details about it. I just know whose pig it was, and when everyone found out whose pig it was, because everyone's like, where the hell did a pig come from in Boswell? There's not a lot of farms. It's just a decently small town. I'd say our population's probably around 1,800 people or something like that. But like, no one's a farmer. So where'd this pig? It was the guy's house pig, And it wasn't a little pig either. It was a big pig.
We support the thin bacon line, so.
Yeah, the thinner.
They put an ordinance out against having pigs because somebody else then had a pig. It was
just they
like a little pot-bellied pig. Yeah, maybe that was the inciting
dangerous animals. Want their French fries and hamburgers.
They literally had it. Okay, this person with the second pig lived in the middle of town, and they literally had it chained to a tree in their front yard. And like Boswell. So a little brief history on Boswell, and this will play into this.
Paint the picture.
So historically, I forget exactly the year that Boswell was established, but Boswell was an old coal mining town that was a lot of different towns in this area of Pennsylvania seemingly pop up as just settlements where people started building houses. And you'll see a lot of different places. A lot of different towns are called villages and stuff like that. I'm not super into the like geography aspect of the world around me, so I don't know the exact delineations, but Boswell and Jerome that are nearby were both manufactured design towns, and they are set up on a perfect grid system of blocks. Like the outside borders are a little like fuzzy due to topography and not being able. All of Boswell is surrounded by forests and not quite mountains, but decently steep graded hills. And there was an old sandstone quarry at the top of town, which it's funny, we call it the top of town because like topographically it is uphill, but it's technically south, so it's kind of backwards. And the northern bottom border of town is capped by, I believe it's the Queen Mahoning Creek that runs along the bottom. So we're like a little grid system nestled into almost like a valley that's on a hill, all forested all around us. There's abandoned mines all around. That was one of the things, like locally, not in school or anything, but you're kind of locally educated on not playing in mines, and seeing orange retention ponds are pretty standard. I don't know.
We had presentations in high school and school about not going and playing in abandoned mines. Like, it's that serious of a problem that we had to have school presentations.
I didn't have that.
Well, I mean,
we did. I remember a couple of them.
Well, that's because they encouraged you to go play in mines and the mushroom.
Well, it made it look fun.
Yeah, that is true. I am the only person here who has actually worked inside of a mine of some kind.
I mean, I played in storm drains.
Oh, you worked there one day?
I worked at the mushroom mine for one day, and I said, "Screw this shit! I'm not working here anymore."
I definitely contemplated going and signing up just to get a tour of the place and then just leaving, like going through the whole application process just so I could get a tour and like see the sites. Because like I've never been to like an actual cavern system, which is funny due to my Andrew knows my educational backgrounds and interests. It's kind of funny that I've never been in a cave, like an actual cave, before. So I would welcome the opportunity to go on a little vacation to a pseudo job, I guess, to just really just punk them and be like, thanks. Do they give you like a hard hat or something? A little souvenir for my trip. Thanks for this.
Taking some of the mushrooms.
Man, I'll tell you what, man. I don't think I've ever had a knife as sharp as the one that I used to cut mushrooms at that mine. I kind of miss it. That I almost had my finger cut off because there'd be stacks, right? And there'd be a stack. So anybody listening, to kind of keep this contextual, the mushroom mine is the only underground mushroom mine in America. I guess it's
shut down now.
That system of
shut down.
Yeah.
Yes.
That system of mushroom farming, I guess, is popular outside of America, but it was the only singular
where the labor is real cheap.
Yeah, only singular underground mushroom farm in the United States. It was in Pennsylvania. I worked at it, and so that we would drive down. It was an old, I want to say, limestone mine that they converted. So they would drive us underground. We'd be deep in the earth. It wasn't a 30-minute drive, or at least it didn't feel like 30 minutes like coal mines are.
It was like a decent drive. It was like a good 10 or 15 minutes down there.
Yeah, it was a bit of a trek down, but I do know that coal mines tend to go a little deeper, which is why when we were under there, you're literally standing upright and there's just giant caves surrounding you. And there is an underground lake that we used to go to. And it was, in retrospect, it was super cool. But at the time, it was incredibly depressing and dark. And you just are in this. If you had a bad headspace and you went into that mine, it was almost mystical how much it would mess with your head. And I remember people talking about, and I guess this happens in other mine jobs too, but like suicides, and everybody in there had like poor attitudes. I guess
that's just a labor job in general.
Yes,
you value your own life. That kind of is inevitable whenever you do a monotonous menial task every day of your life.
You take that remedial hard labor and you stick it hundreds of feet underground in the dark, and it increases that like mental instability,
and
like
it stinks
tenfold, and it smells terribly. Yeah,
my dad used to get mushroom mulch to fertilize our lawn like every other year, and it stinks.
Yeah, so it's like it always messed with my head, because at that time in my like late teens, early 20s, I was like if you saw my MySpace, you'd know I was kind of emo. the
guy who runs a paranormal podcast was emo at one point.
Yeah, it's strange to think like that.
Now we're talking. He's more like the
what a development
emo.
Yeah, I was.
He was a hot topic goth.
Yes, hot topic goth. That's the best way to put it.
You remember going down to we'd go down the mall all the time, and we'd go.
Oh, I knew it was coming. I knew it was coming. The mall.
We'd eat at the food court. We'd eat like the Chinese food at the food court, and then we'd get in trouble, get arrested at Walmart. And
yeah, that's what
was that. We ran from the police at the Mills.
Aren't you banned from all Walmarts on Mars?
Yes, I'm banned from Walmarts on Mars. That's a real.
That wasn't
thing.
even like a sarcastic comment either. That was a legitimate like.
Yeah, when
banned from Walmart's on Mars and the moon.
when we got in trouble at Walmart, we were told that we were banned from all locations and potential locations on the moon and Mars. I have an actual document that says that. So
I've been to Walmart many times since then.
Yeah, same. And we have not been to Mars yet. So who won that exchange? Walmart.
Suck it, Walmart.
I'm still giving you my money.
I actually haven't been to Walmart in 2 years. So
every time I go to Walmart, I'm free labor because I go to their freaking self-checkouts. So I work for Walmart every time I go there for free. I pay them for my labor.
I steal everything, so
that's perfect. Someone has to get a win.
That's why we got banned in the first place.
I thought you got banned because you had a dude in the trunk.
Well, that was the thing that also happened.
We would get on the intercoms because they put the password for the intercom right on the back of on the inside of the phone.
Bulletproof.
Yeah.
I'm glad they had a password.
Yeah, good sec there, guys. Good OPSEC. DefSec. Good DefSec.
It's one time we went in, it was
somebody got paid good money to make that decision. I just hope you understand that.
This one time John and I went into Walmart and I had busted myself open prior so that
it happens all the time. It's the only way I go to Walmart. Busted open. you went in, busted open, and then they busted you open.
They busted his cheeks open.
Out of context, I think I should clarify. I busted my forehead open so that I would be bleeding, and I got the bleeding to stop, and then I went in and I did we call it a flare flop for anybody not familiar with pro wrestling. It's when you just fall straight to the ground like Ric Flair does. And I fell, and obviously I protected myself, but everyone else saw it and thought that I just hit the ground. And so I bumped my head, and it started the blood flow coming back. And we were a nuisance. It's not even fun to brag about anymore, I guess.
I was going to say, you're like everyone nuisance. That I see at Walmart, and I'm just like, this is why I shouldn't have left my fucking house. I look at you, and I'm just like, I've had enough.
Do you remember that time we went to the
not going to Walmart anymore?
We went to the one in Indiana that 2 a.m, and that dude was driving that John Deere tractor around in the parking lot.
You made Walmart Plus a thing. you had a hand in making that successful.
My mom's gonna see this.
But yeah, man, we did all kinds of
start over. We might as well start over.
You shouldn't have brought up the mines. That's all that.
Don't bring up the mines.
I was just gonna say.
I don't want to talk about the mines.
Levity about that you have to have in that. Anyway, well, I reached for a mushroom, and the person on the other side of the stack almost cut my finger. End of story.
We're doubling back on still being off topic.
Since we're talking about mines, we might as well talk about Minecraft, right?
Talk about Herobrine.
Yeah.
But continue.
Herobrine is kind of on topic, actually. Yeah. So you know how Herobrine was one of the earlier creepypastas, and that's about the time. So my story here starts, I believe it was 2014. It was around September. It was a little bit before my school's homecoming event, because we did a very goofy backwoods homecoming thing that plays into the story. It's on topic. Don't worry. We're in the clear. But I believe it was September Yeah, like late September of 2014. It was my first year out of high school, first year in college. I was still dating my girlfriend that I had in high school. She was like couple like a grade below me or something like that. I don't remember.
Going young.
Yeah, 1 year. So I was fresh out of high school. I was in college, and I still lived at home with my dad. My dad lived in approximately the center of town. The center of town. He was like one. He was one street over from the center of town. Is bisected by Main Street that runs the whole way up through town. It's a state road, so it's wider and more of a centerpiece, I guess, if you were to look at things from an urban planning aspect. And Boswell branches off on both sides in a grid shaped pattern of blocks exactly the same size. So whenever I lived at home with my dad was he was, speaking of the mines again, he was a mine boss. He was a very rural America kind of dad, I guess. I can't picture him without a Coors Light in his hand, especially when driving. I was the holder of the other Coors Lights. And I literally didn't even know it was illegal to drink and drive until I was like 16. Whenever I was like reading because it was so commonplace, it's just dad needs his road sodas, whatever.
Shit, we're not supposed to do that.
Now my legs are going to be cold because there's 5 Coors Lights in my legs to go 8 miles.
Dad, did you know this is illegal?
He's never drunk though. The man's tolerance was at imperceivable levels, I guess. But anyway, I still lived at home with him, and he very, very stern, impassionate man, I guess. He's a dick. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. He's a fucking dickhead. We don't get along anymore. Because I stopped being his lackey. But part of being
the road beers,
part of being said lackey was it doesn't matter, what time you get off school, what time you get off work thereafter. Our 2 dogs needed walked every day. So, and we had a big yard too. They got plenty of exercise in the backyard. There was no need to walk the dogs every day, but he was very insistent, It doesn't matter. Even if you snuck in the house and you thought he didn't hear you, he heard that doorknob turn and he just went, "Go walk the dogs." So you'd have to go walk the fucking dogs. And I lived at home with my 2 younger sisters. We were each staggered 2 years apart from each other. So I was 17, 18, and my next youngest sister, who came with me on our dog walking adventure in the middle of night. It was like 10 o'clock at night. I just got off work. I was cooking after I spent the entire day, at school. Came home from college, cooked, came home like 10:30 at night, go walk the dogs. So I had to go get my sister and we had to go walk the dogs around town. And we would do a loop just around the general, not exactly the perimeter, a little bit in, but, walk around the perfect grid system of Boswell. And Boswell has very ominous lights. Like all of our street lights are that nice orange color, like that, pretty much like your Sasquatchers logo there behind John, that color orange. So it was black, we're walking, our dogs were, one of them was a border collie. The other one was some kind of hodgepodge of dog breeds, but they're the same size. They aren't the largest dogs, but they're above medium sized dogs, decent sized protective dogs. And we were walking around Boswell and it's black except for these slivers of lights that come out of the street lights that are just bathing everything in this orange color. And it kind of ominous, but when you're used to it, it doesn't really faze you. And we walked the whole way around town, and we were walking up to complete. There were 2 more. It's hard to explain without a drawing in front of me, but so we were on if you imagine Main Street going vertical in front of your face, we were off to the left side, and we were 2 blocks away from Main Street on like on the x-axis, and we were coming up the y-axis around the corner to face Main Street. And we were walking around this first block. There's 2 blocks from us to Main Street. I'm not exactly sure what the dimensions of a block are to give you a distance. But, my sister and I were both walking straight towards Main Street now. And it was like, that's whenever we saw it. It was, it's like time slowed down, kind of. Like, not in like it slowed time down, but like I can see it in like slow motion. Like it's embedded in my brain what I saw. And it was like, it looked like a man. It looked like a pale, naked man. Andrew, I sent you my artist rendition of the creature.
Yeah,
it came
did.
running.
I have it. I'm gonna include it in the uploads and stuff. I don't think I'm gonna mess around with any presentations right now. Now that we're finally in the meat of the story here, so listeners will be able to take a look at that when I post it.
Okay. So, resetting the scene. Black. I can see Main Street. We're walking along this street that has splotches on the road of just orange light. In Main Street, we can see it's like a tunnel of darkness with the streets sporadically lit in this orange light. And Main Street is decently well lit with the orange light. And this white, maybe gray thing that looks like a man on all fours comes flying down Main Street. And like I can see it in slow motion. And I'm looking at it and I can tell, first of all, it's not a deer. It's not a dog. I've seen deer. I'm quite an outdoorsman. Trust me. I don't hunt anymore, but I know what a deer looks like. I know animal anatomy. I know what a dog looks like. I've seen dogs run, and it's actually, yeah. It's interesting because like knowing how animals function tells me that this thing was not an animal. Like, so I'm watching it run down the street in slow motion. First of all, its back is perfectly parallel with the road. Like the back does not flex. The back is not arched. It is not like the back does not bend at all. It looks like a human torso rotated horizontally. It had a flat human shaped head, but it didn't look like a human, like looking up. It looked like the neck went straight out and connected to the back of the like skull, because it was looking straight forward, and there was no like the head wasn't higher than the back. It was like in line with it, and the face was flat. Like there was no snout, there was nothing. I couldn't really see eyes or anything like that. It just was. It had like the contours of a human face. And
so
we're
like
probably
a lack of better analogy, kind of like had the head of like a Lord Voldemort.
Yeah. If his head was connected instead of at the bottom, where your neck connects, straight out from the back of the head.
You would say in this instance, you were the boy who lived, come to die.
I'm not a Harry Potter person, so I don't know. But okay, so I see this thing. I can see its defined like rib cage. Like it was sickeningly skinny. I could see the shape of its rib cage and the inversion where your like stomach cavity is, and like a clear, definitive like change in thickness. I don't remember if I could see individual ribs or not, but I could see like the rib cage then change profile to stomach region. And I could see its arms and legs, and they were all four straight out in front of it. Well, not in front of it, under it, straight out under it. And they were like moving in a rapid, like scissoring motion. So that like arms and legs looked like they were locked, passing each other back and forth.
So like no bending movement. They were just like straight out,
and then going back and forth. Like I guess like you would before you would do a cartwheel, kind of. Yeah, exactly. And they were
stiff movements is what you would.
Yeah, stiff joints,
fast
arms and legs going back and forth in this like same
That's
like
disturbing.
motion,
Very disturbing.
and
Yeah.
it went by in like the blink of an eye. Like it was hauling ass, and like Main Street was it dipped down in the direction it was traveling. It was going down grade, and like looking at it, it didn't make sense. Like, did you ever like, I don't know, like watch something scary on like YouTube, and you get like that rot gut feeling where you just feel like that sinking, like I shouldn't be watching this.
Yes.
Kind of like ethereal dread, not just like a jump scare that startled me. Like it's a deeper sense of like something
like
is wrong.
It's like a spiritual thing almost.
I grew up with somethhingrotten.com, so
yeah. Well, even some.
Yeah, you're a little desensitized to things most humans feel, I guess.
Right. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's a very disturbing feeling to have. And then like
something you're in danger watching the video, right?
Yeah.
I'm like feeling echoes of it right now. It's freaking me out a little bit. My sister, who experienced this with me, side note, will not talk about it. She gets like upset, like can't even hide it. Like she gets very upset about this. And I talk about it relatively often because I've always been into this kind of stuff. You know, I was the creepypasta kid. Knew all that stuff, knew about Bigfoot forever. But to continue describing this thing, so if you've ever paid attention to like animal anatomy and the way their bodies function, when say a dog or a deer walks, you know, they move their legs, they don't really move their back. And as they increase in speed, they move up to a trot where the back stays relatively rigid and they just kind of like, you know, gallop along. And whenever they switch, because I looked into all of this stuff too after this, whenever they switch to running, they almost all four-legged quadruped animals will lock their like front legs together and their back legs together, and they do most of their locomotion by moving their back. Like they flex their back. I don't know if you have ever noticed any of this before, but it's like
I've never looked that closely.
Look next time you see like your dogs go.
Yeah.
Like
then I'm gonna be forever scared of my dogs.
Well, that's what was made me know this wasn't an animal, because it didn't do that. It was going fast enough that if this was a person somehow doing this, first of all, their back would have been bent, because try recreating it, your back bends. Like you can't not arch your back whenever you do this kind of position. Like the position's not physically possible for a human to recreate. And like to just scissor your arms and legs back and forth and move at the speed this thing was moving downhill, you'd fall on your face instantly. Like at least I have in my recreation experience trying to demonstrate to different people I've told the story to. I mean, I'm also not the most coordinated person, but like to maintain the posture and move your arms and legs downhill in the middle of the night, butt naked, I just don't see it being possible. I'm not going to say it's impossible, because I don't think anything's impossible. It could have been someone with some sort of weird genetic deformity running naked down the street at 10 o'clock at night on like a Tuesday in September. It's back when Pennsylvania used to be cold in September. But it moved in a way that animals don't move, and a person couldn't move. And I'm seeing this through my eyes. And like, I see this thing run past me down like the direction we're facing. We're already looking ahead, walking across the road. And I see this thing just run past. And I'm in my own head. I'm just like, I'm processing everything that I just saw. And I'm already telling myself like, that was a deer or something. Like I didn't, or a dog, or that I didn't just see a weird man-shaped creature run down the street in front of me. And I turned to look at my sister, who's on my left side walking beside me, and she was already looking at me with this fucking face of just pure dread. Like, and that's whenever I realized like, oh, I did just see that, because we've seen deer run through the streets of town before. Like it's not an odd occurrence, but we know what those look like, and that's not what we just saw. We just saw something paranormal. Like
right.
there's no other explanation for it that I can come to, and I'm pretty analytical and rational about most of the thoughts I have. I overanalyze a lot of different things. Andrew, you can attest to that. But and going back to like the memory of it, like I have no explanation for it, for what it was. And my sister had the same reaction to it. Like she, as my witness, saw the same thing at the same time, exactly from the same perspective, and had the same reaction of that was not an animal. And that if it was a person, they were a pretty sickly looking person. And another detail that I remember that I didn't point out was that it had human feet, like distinctly human feet.
On like, the back legs or all four?
On the back legs.
Okay.
Like so you know how in animals, like a dog or a deer's back legs have like the zigzag shape, and they basically their paws are their toes, and their whole like lower extension of their leg that kind of looks like a human foot if you were standing on your toes. That's the same bone structure, essentially, just distended a little bit. This thing had flat feet that made full contact with the ground while it was scissoring its way down the street. I hate using that terminology, but that's that's what it was. Like a deer or a dog or something, you might perceive that bent extension of their bottom part of their leg as, oh, maybe that's a human foot at a distance. But it doesn't come in full contact flat with the ground whenever they run. Like they run on their toes. This thing was making full flat foot contact with the ground while it was hauling ass down the street in front of us. So coming back to reality, you know, we realized we just saw the same thing. We have no explanation for what we saw, and we have to walk directly in the direction that it was just at to get home. So we, you know, hurried up our steps and got in, and we got home, and we walked in the front door in like kind of a panic. And the front door of our house was in the living room, and that's where my dad existed when he wasn't away at work, on the couch watching TV. And, you know, the whole room was dark, TV's playing. So my dad's got that nice flickering light on his face. And, you know, a very stern man, not into humoring stupid things. I think he's joked a couple times. I think he has smiled like 5 times that I've ever seen. And we walk in and we're just like, Dad, like, you're not gonna believe what we just saw. And like, he like didn't break eye contact with the television, and he just sat there like stern faced. And we started like both telling him, like, we didn't even talk about it. Like when we saw what we saw, we didn't talk to each other about it. We just both like instinctually knew we're going home. And we went home, didn't say a word about what we saw. And when we got home, we both started telling him at the same time, you know, what we saw. And like we were telling him the same thing. Like we didn't rehearse it on the way home or anything. Like we literally were just filling in each other's sentences because we saw the same thing in our minds. Unless our memories were both twisted in the same fashion, we saw the same thing. And we're telling him this information, and he's just sitting there slouched on the couch, laid back with his Coors Light, watching TV. And he literally just says, "You're not the first ones." And we're just like, well, like, what do you even say to that? Like, he's not, he wasn't kidding. First of all, he was like, I couldn't, like, now, like, thinking about it, because like I'm a father, and like thinking how I would react to my kids coming home and relaying this information to me. And I had this knowledge ahead of time of something else that happened involving the same creature, and now my kids are telling me about it. I would probably be shitting my pants a little bit. Because so my dad owns this I guess essentially retired commercial garage in Boswell across town. And he's friends with the other like local old men on the corner around at the intersection. And one of them has a daughter that was a little bit younger than my sister. Or no, she was between me and my sister. And she had, we weren't in the same social circle, never really talked to each other or anything like that. And she was apparently coming home one night, like around the same time period. I never really got clarification on when her experience happened, but she was coming home from our friend's house in Boswell on foot, walking home at night. And she said something was following her. Like she could hear it like in the bushes and like the brush along the sides of the roads. Cause the bottom of Boswell, and around the outskirts, I don't even know where she was at specifically, but we're surrounded by forest and there's some large rock outcrops and there's at least one small cave that I know of. But she said something was following her home and she could hear it like sneaking through the bushes and stuff. And it at some point in time had run out either on the road or across the road or something like that where she could see it. And she described the same thing that we saw. Apparently, this is just my retelling of a story that was told to me. So take it with a grain of salt. But the brass tacks of, this point of contention is that she saw the same thing we did, completely isolated in a vacuum from my sister and I, and we had absolutely no knowledge of this happening. And my dad just tells us this story after we just saw this creature.
Just like nonchalantly.
not nonchalantly. Like he was like, his tone was grim. Like it was like serious time. Like, and when my dad was serious, he was fucking serious. Like there was no, like you crack a smile and you would get the death glare. Like he was very like, I don't know, like commanding of like telling us, relaying the story to us. And it makes you sick. Like yet another point of confirmation. Cause like, everyone wants to see something spectacular and amazing in their life, but like, I can't speak for other people who have had weird encounters with paranormal things, but like there was a part of my mind that as cool as it is to like have seen this thing, there's part of your mind that's really hoping that you didn't. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's part of you that's just like, I want this to not exist because that was fucking scary. And there's no reasonable explanation for what I just saw. And there's no, if it's a deer, it's okay. Like I'm safe. But whenever you are feet away from something that you don't understand, that you cannot, your brain cannot rationalize what it is to give you a safety net, you don't know what it is. You don't have, I don't know what it's capable of. Like, did it see me? Like, can it follow me? Like, once you see something that you don't understand and know what it is, you don't have a safety net. All bets are off. You don't know anything about it. Like you don't know what it's capable of. And it kind of became it became an entire thing that sort of swallowed up at least the younger generation in town at the time, because my sister was still in high school. My youngest sister was also still in high school. And we were creepypasta kids, so we dubbed it the Rake because that's what it looked like. It was the Rake, and it's all saved on my old laptop that will no longer start. But I sat down because I was into cryptids and all that stuff, and I wrote down my entire explanation of what happened. I made drawings of what I saw, and like did my own due diligence to document everything. And the closest thing that I could think of it resembling was like the Dover demon at the time.
Yeah.
Because we didn't have, like nowadays, there's videos of pale crawlers and things people keep calling skinwalkers that don't fit the description of a skinwalker. They fit closer to Wendigos, I guess. Which this fits, apparently.
I was just going to ask, like, do you think that could have possibly been a Wendigo because you also have those happening in your area?
I mean, our area was very Native American heavy. Like you can go to my one friend's mom is like a huge, she's part Native American. I'm not sure which nation her heritage comes from, but she's very into the archaeological aspects. Like they have a house that is full of arrowheads. Like I'm talking like more than a museum exhibit would. Like the entire bottom floor of their house is full of arrowheads, things I don't think it's legal for them to possess. Like there's religious totems that I didn't even know were things, but I've seen them with my own eyes. They're like strange oblong polished rocks and stuff that have I don't even know, other rocks connected to them or around them, arranged. Like she knows what all that stuff is, but point is you can go under any outcrop of rock that overhangs like softer silty soil, and if you sift it you will probably find arrowheads. And like farmer fields, every time they till, you have a good chance of finding arrowheads if you know what to look for. Like we were very Native American heavy, and like the Wendigo obviously hails from Native American lore. I think it was specifically Algonquin in Canada, but we're close enough to Canada. It doesn't seem like the word of mouth would have fizzled out. But I don't know if I buy into the process of a human being becoming a Wendigo. I don't mean to spite others' religious views. I respect them. I just don't know if I can, think that that's exactly what happened. But at the same time, it fits the bill. Like it matches the description. I have no explanation for what I did see. I have no explanation for what the other girl was followed by. I just know that it was there. What were you going to say, Andrew?
I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just going to say, like, yeah, I mean, like, there isn't concrete evidence one way or the other as to what that could have been, as far as, when to go, when to not, maybe, it's just, it's honestly starting to creep me out too, because I know some people that don't even say the word,
Yeah, it's it's supposed to be taboo to even mention the word.
But yeah. And
so Drew actually just sent me the artistic representation as you created. And as I said back to him, this is the weirdest thing. I don't know you at all, right? Correct? We've never talked or met. No. I've seen this before. This piece of art I've seen before. I'm not saying you. I don't mean that. No, I don't mean that in the way that you copied. I'm saying that it's very weird that in my mind, it's like I'm pretty sure I've seen this before. So,
and like I've looked into other like pale crawler sightings and skinwalkers that people just blanket throw that term over anything humanoid, and none of them match. Like they don't look like that.
Definitely
like,
has the Dover demon, the Dover demon thing for sure going on.
The Dover demon was definitely like its proportion. Its body was spindly and small. Like it was very frail looking, according to their depictions. I didn't see it, but this thing was very like long. It was lanky, like it was thin and spindly, but not in like a fragile way. Just in that it didn't have any meat on it. Like it looked like bones. I couldn't see. The lighting wasn't that great. It was pretty pale orange lighting in the middle of the night, but like you could still see like the limbs were very thin and very long. The body was long and like the stomach area was thin, and you could tell the head was flat unless it had a snout that somehow didn't reflect any sort of light at all. I don't know. Snout. And it was an animal that had a snout and human feet that made full contact with the ground. I don't know. But after
getting some I'm getting some kind of vibe from it. I don't know what it is. I almost want to say Silent Hill, but it needs like a jacket or something. It needs like a top hat, and then it would be Silent Hill vibes.
Yeah. Nurse costume. But so after our experience and the unrelated experience we heard about, my sisters spread this around like wildfire. And I was still I wasn't involved in the high school or anything like that after I graduated, but I had to make appearances because my girlfriend at the time was on homecoming court. So there was all the to do that went around with that. And I had to, make the appearance, and everyone was talking about the rake in Boswell, that suddenly then everyone started seeing it. And I sincerely do not believe everyone started seeing it. I definitely feel, let's be honest, they were kids in high school, probably trying to feel special and cash in on the hype or the trend or whatever. I'm sure I never heard any specific stories after that, but I just know people were claiming to see it at some point in time. Now, when my sister and I saw what we saw, it did not have glowing eyes. I couldn't see anything besides and it might even be at this point, this many years later, it might even be my mind filling in blanks. I feel like I only saw like darkened sockets, like the implication of sockets in shadow. But again, I don't remember that clearly. Thus, I didn't include it earlier. But I do know that the eyes were not glowing. Somewhere along the line, the invention of eyes glowing came up. I mean, maybe its eyes do glow. It didn't look at us. It looked straight forward when it ran down the road. And for an animal to have eye shine, you have to shine a light directly into its eyes and have the light from you bounce out of its back of its eye into your eye to see eye shine. It wasn't. I think I would
rather it not looked at me, right? Like, the fact that you weren't noticed is a blessing.
Yeah, that's one thing that I've always taken from that story is like, whatever that thing was doing, it luckily kept doing it and didn't. We like to think like these supernatural creatures, beings, whatever they are. I mean, they're omnipresent and super aware, and so there's only a couple of scenarios. Either it didn't see you and you got lucky, or the scarier thing is it was aware that you were there and
maybe it still knows about you. Maybe it's looking for you.
Something else that it had to do.
That kind of plays into where this story continues from here.
Oh.
Yeah. I didn't see it again, thankfully. But I thought I did.
Yeah.
And it so with the homecoming event, right? Our school did a nice little thing where at the one, it would in our local sort of orientation, the top corner of town, which is technically south, there's this area called the Fireman's Grove. There's like a bingo hall there and this nice big flat area, and it's surrounded by woods. And they would do like our town block party and stuff is all back there. We have bonfires and that kind of thing. Town-wide bonfires controlled by the fire department.
Is that like the Boswell version of Bohemian Grove?
I don't know what that is, to be honest with you. It would be the perfect location for Brush Crawler Festival, though. I'm just going to throw that out there. As nice as that would be, to have our own local mass hysteria epidemic that swept through at least the younger generation and then just kind of fizzled out. No one cared.
Tell the town to bring in tourist money. Boom.
Oh, our town fights against everything.
Look at Kecksburg.
I work with a girl from Kecksburg.
Yeah, look at the amount of people that show up there. It started off as like a group of like 30, and now there's hundreds of thousands of people that show up there every year. So
yeah, well, like cryptids are in too nowadays. Yeah, like there's been a cultural shift.
When I went to the Mothman Festival in 2019, it was absolutely insane how many people packed that downtown area, and there was food trucks, booze trucks, live music. Like it was a 2 or 3 day celebration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of hey guys, look at like these 65 people that died on this bridge collapsing. Let's celebrate it.
I was kind of so we went to Mothman Fest, I think last year, and we looked all over the place for like the Silver Bridge and all this stuff. We had to follow these maps, and there's just like, oh, you know, that's a big part of everything. You'd think there'd be something designated to that, and there's like a tiny little plaque on like a little tiny stone podium that's like, oh yeah,
well, they don't care about that.
Are you kidding?
Did you look at did you look at Mothman's ass, the
that's
Mothman?
Oh yeah,
that's the big attraction. What people do.
I did my due diligence and I gave her a little slappity slap, you know.
Nice. Are we gendering Mothman now? You said she.
Did I say she?
I think that just you went with that because it made you feel a little more comfortable with the hindquarters.
Listen, our kitchen days are over, Andrew.
Exactly. So you said that you've seen this. You thought you saw this thing again.
Yeah. So, back to the homecoming subject. At the Fireman's Grove for homecoming, they would have a bonfire and a car smashing. I don't know if this is like a normal thing that normal human beings do.
That's a Pennsylvania thing for sure.
They would bring in a car. Like I know the one other school, a couple of the people I work with went to, they would do this thing before prom where they would bring in, I think it's called the promise car. They'd bring in this totaled car and they would have this big stage performance essentially of like these people who drank and drove after prom and mangled their car and died. It's like a, you know, don't drink and drive after prom. Well, instead we just got a car that was like from a junkyard and you had to pay $5 and you got 3 swings with a sledgehammer on it. It's a way to raise money for homecoming while there's just a massive bonfire raging off to the side.
Sounds very pagan.
Yeah,
like the Roman Empire.
Maybe that's where the brush crawler came from. Burning effigies and sacrificing a vehicle, and all of a sudden a naked man monster starts running around. Yeah, maybe those are connected. He just got a jump start because this was like a couple of weeks before, or a week or two before this whole event. So anyway, this whole pagan ritual takes place right next to the woods. Like we are 5 feet from the woods that are on 2 out of 4 sides of us. And, you know, my ex-girlfriend, she was homecoming queen. And like, you know, she was the popular girl in her grade, not like flexing, just for context. She's a socialite and would socialize.
Yeah, my girlfriend, my high school girlfriend used to be the prom queen. She was a socialite.
Yeah. She also had like 3 other boyfriends too at times. So, I wasn't anything special, but I was like the current one.
Dude, I'm sorry. Do you want to talk about it?
No, it's fine. But I had to follow her around, and like I'm not a very social person. I'm pretty socially awkward. I was stressed out to even talk on this podcast because it's some form of public speaking. I'm not that guy. But I had to follow her around while she made her appearances and talk to everybody while we're standing 5 feet from the fucking woods where I just saw a goddamn creature running around. It's the middle of the night and there's a massive like cultist bonfire, and it was just like it was like too fucking much. And like I was beyond sketched. Like I was sick. Like because we were trying to paint this picture for you. Like we were literally right next to the woods, and right on the other sides of like the tree line is a straight downward hillside that's all rock outcrop with like some like cave I mentioned earlier, big sandstone boulders. That's where we're a little bit down from where the old sandstone quarry used to be. Like it's an old coal freight rail line. Boswell was set up to be a coal mining town, so they based it around freight railroad system, and the remnants of that, we call it the Black Path because they took the train tracks out now, but the pathway that they carved flat is just stained black with coal dirt. And you know, they had to hack out, blast straight through rocks because trains can't climb hills. They have to be on a level surface, so it's all exposed rock with cracks and craggles and everything else, and it's just boulders everywhere, like ample place for a creature to hide. I mean, we get bears all the time. There was just a cub a couple months ago who was on the high school playground, and like I think the kids got out of school early because there was just a black bear cub running around the school.
Hey, we're gonna send the kids outside to get in cars and buses to go.
Yeah,
there's a bear. That's the safest thing to do.
There's
Don't
a bear
stay
outside.
inside.
Everyone go out there. But,
well, I mean, a pig did hold up the Burger King, so I can understand.
Why am I even scared of a naked man monster? You know,
For real.
Some people would call that like a traumatic life experience, and then I'd just call that Tuesday. But
it's normal life in Boswell.
So like I'm like standing here, I didn't even like. I would stand next to her and stuff, and while she's bullshitting with everybody, I'm just staring at the woods, like because like I don't even know. Like you think like, oh, I want to see Bigfoot, then you see Bigfoot, and like, well, you think in your head like, oh, how a Bigfoot encounter is gonna be. Like, yeah, I'm gonna see Bigfoot, and then it's like I saw Bigfoot. That's cool as hell. Until you would like actually see Bigfoot. And now you look at the woods different. Like, because now you're like, the reality kind of sets in, like projecting what my feelings were. It'd be like, I want to see Bigfoot. Then you see Bigfoot. And now you are like, I'm not going in the woods because there's a monster twice my size that could fold me up like a fucking lawn chair and kill me and drag me hundreds of miles into the woods where no one would find me. And that is there now. And I know it is there because I saw it. Like that is now the reality that I'm living in, and I'm being made to stand in the woods.
Earlier, you said you didn't hunt anymore. Is this the reason?
No, don't hunt because it's way too much effort, and I just don't like it. It's boring. I mean, there's plenty of value to doing it, but it's too much effort.
Yeah, this didn't keep you out of the woods long term by any means.
No, but it definitely like once, like for this, like at least that whole year, like I was not about it at all. Like I eventually came back into the circle of exploring the woods. I don't like to do it alone, and I get very freaked out. Even during the day, being alone in the woods kind of still gets me like.
Yeah, I don't really like it either, to be honest. It just bad vibes when you're just in the middle of the woods by yourself.
Yeah, it's like a primal fear that doesn't make sense because like we kind of came from that. So like you shouldn't have that fear,
even disregarding any like weird monsters and paranormal stuff. You don't know what kind of psychos are living in the woods. For 6 years, there was a dude, and I'm going to tell this very quick, not to just derail this, but down below my house, my old house when I lived in Pennsylvania, the woods were like right down the hill from there. And for like 5 or 6 years, this dude that had ran away from the law, the police, that had charges for like child molestation stuff, he lived in a tent right down in those woods. You can still to this day, you can walk down there about 15 minutes in the wood. You can still see like the remnants of like where he was living in like a tent, and there's like pots and pans like rusted, still sitting out there. Like that guy lived 15 minutes from my house. I walked through those woods when I was a kid. We walked those woods by ourselves. You know, now I was like a teenager and adult when this happened, but still, like I was walking right through there, not knowing there was some creepo just living in the woods.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. Yeah. You poor guy.
To him or me?
I would be saying poor guy for him if he did get a hold of you, but he didn't get a hold of you. So I guess, that was a close one. But
yeah, there's a reason he lived there 5 years and didn't make a move.
Oh no, one of these days. Oh no, I'm young and afraid of the woods. If only a big, strong adult could come help me out of here.
I'm not by myself.
Could help me out.
It's a shame that I didn't wear a belt and my pants just fell down.
If only anyone was here to get me off. I mean, get me out of these woods.
I'm busted
But,
open. Help.
Meanwhile, this guy's calling the cops to get picked up and go back to jail. He can't take it anymore.
Yeah, he's here again. He thinks I can't hear him. Get me the fuck out of here. But
So you're staring at the woods with this, like this, knowing that your world and your existence is not the same as that it used to be.
yeah, like it straight up like it like put a halt to my brain. It's like affection for the woods and like the appreciation of like the beauty, like that even still to this day. Like I still appreciate the beauty of like nature in the woods and whatnot, but like that background fear is now there. And it never was before, you know. I used to have to go hunting with my dad all the time, like never really was afraid of the woods. I had an understanding at an early age that most things in the woods are more afraid of you than you are of them. Like probably the biggest thing you need to fear are ticks and copperheads. But you know, after you see something like that, it just recontextualizes everything that you thought you knew, because it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit. Like suddenly you're like I said, your safety net's gone. Like what, this is here, this doesn't exist, but I'm seeing it exist and it is here now, and I have to, you know, rationalize this in my head. And I'm thinking about all of this while I'm staring at the woods. And like I eventually got to a point where I'm just like, I do not want to be here because I'm gonna start throwing up. Like my anxiety is like through the roof, like feeling like so much adrenaline that you're just like lightheaded. And I told my ex, I'm just like, I need to go home. Like I need to get out of here because I cannot continue to put myself through this right now. And yeah, she's all fucked off about it.
Did she
her
know
twin
about
brother? Yeah, I told her all of it, and my sister told her all of it because she was decently close friends with my sister too, and she just disregarded all of it, didn't care about any of it. Like, you know, how could you believe that? Like, you know, like especially like being young too. Like you guys are a little bit more open-minded, and obviously your audience is probably a little bit more open-minded too. But like as a normal person with, you know, their thought process on other things, how would you, what would even incline you to believe that, besides knowing me and my rapport as, you know, her boyfriend at the time and trusting me? Like she didn't want to hear any of it, didn't want to humor any of it. It was all just whatever. I misunderstood what I saw. And that's that in her eyes, I'm assuming. I don't know. She didn't really talk about it because she did not want to humor it that much. But her twin brother, he humored it a lot. Like he was into it. Like, he believed all of it. And he was one of the people who then started going out with the search parties. Whenever I wanted to go home that night, one of my other friends I had, who was the same age as me, had a group of kids. He hung out with younger kids, not like that, but like, you know, kids a couple grades below us.
Yeah, we got you.
And he piled them into his car and stuff, and they were driving around town with flashlights. And like there were other people who were also going out, you know, the younger kids. Like that became the thing to do for a little bit. There was going on rake hunts. Like kids would go out, they grab their like baseball bat or whatever they had at home with their flashlights, and they'd go out in cars and just drive around and look for it. Like I went on a rake hunt myself with that exact friend, and I think my ex's twin brother was with us. I don't remember specifically, but like that was the thing. Like the kids just went out in droves and looked for the monster in town, and it eventually fizzled out. But like there were a couple times where I thought I saw it again, but I know I didn't see it again. But like in the moment, like you see, like you're driving along a dark road at night and the headlights light something up weird, or you think you see something. And but like that's yeah, that's the headspace that I was forced into. Like I know I didn't see it again, but I saw it once. So, you know, you're driving along at night alone in your car, and you see just a real quick thing. It might have even been a floater in your eye, but suddenly your brain's like, was that it? Like, was that it again? Is it there? Everyone else is seeing it. Like,
do you still feel like that, like to this day?
No, I don't really feel like that at all anymore. I don't think I've seen it since. Like I said, I don't even know how many other people actually saw it, because the the hubbub around town became so diluted with everyone
Everybody
trying to
saw
just,
it.
oh, I saw it, I
Yeah.
saw it. It was in my house. I definitely heard stories about it being in your house.
I had dinner with it.
Well, people started because then creepypasta was a pretty niche thing back then. We're talking, this was like 2014. So even back then, creepypasta wasn't very well known. I think creepypasta hit its stride in 2010-ish. So it's like a little
that was like at the end towards the trail, like the trail off. They still make creepypastas, but it trailed off. Yeah.
The popularity amongst
or even like the
weirdos,
SCP stuff. Like that was popular around that same time too, 2010-ish. Yeah.
Slender Man and all the
Jeff
the Killer and all that good stuff. Yep. Those aren't SCPs, but But like suddenly everyone suddenly everyone was reading the creepypasta about the rake and projecting their own stuff because the rake creepypasta involves it being in someone's bedroom and then suddenly someone's seeing it with glowing eyes in their bedroom. But it's like a weird case study that being invested in paranormal stuff since a young age, it was fascinating to see it just unfold in front of my eyes. Like I'm witnessing mass hysteria on like a small localized area. And I mean, that's cool. I mean, it kind of sucks because then it takes away from the credibility, but it's just something to it. I'm lucky. In hindsight, I'm lucky to have experienced it, to be completely honest. I'm really glad it happened. But at the same time, it affected me differently than it affected my sister,
who still doesn't talk about it to this day because of how traumatizing the experience was.
Yeah, she does not like to talk about it.
And, I wouldn't blame her either necessarily.
People process stuff like that differently. Like she took that as maybe like a really bad thing, like an omen, like a demonic.
Yeah.
And now, shut that off, get that out of my mind.
Neither of us are very religious people. So
regardless,
everyone gets, it could have triggered something spiritual inside her of what we saw did not make sense. And like you said, she could have totally taken that her own personal way.
You question your entire world and existence when you see something like that because it's not supposed to be real.
And you're someone who has talked about it publicly, and you talk about the traumas and post-traumatic stress that you dealt with. Like, imagine the stuff that's going on with her because she's never talked about it ever again. That stuff's still just in there.
Yeah. I have to do something real quick. I will be right back.
Sure.
Yeah. This is going longer than we usually.
It's been a fun one though. I really hope everybody enjoys it because I've had fun.
Yeah.
Just sitting.
That's the
not
thing,
at the expense of this terrifying situation, just the conversation in general.
Yeah, when we have a like-minded friend on who can just jump on and chat, it's
I still can't get over you wearing that blanket though. You look like a freaking Norse warrior or something.
Well, my ancestry DNA definitely.
You're 23andMe
has provided Ancestry.com has provided me with plenty of information to know that I'm not a poser to look Norse.
Fun fact about Ancestry.com, it's owned by the Mormon Church, right?
Is it really?
Yeah, and you know what they do? So
probably
the Mormon
clone
Church,
me, take my DNA.
In all of their apostasy and heresy, here's what the Mormon Church does with what you enter into Ancestry.com. They have this thing where they submit the souls of the dead to become planets, to become the gods of different planets in the afterlife. So when you enter in your relatives' information and stuff and they verify it, they take those and they do that, and they do these ceremonies for these random ass people, for everyone that's entered this stuff online, so that they can become the king of some planet in their afterlife or something. That's what the Mormon Church does. So I will not give the Mormon Church.
So I have a planet to look forward to when I die? Is what you're saying?
Via the Mormon Church.
I'm now a king of a planet?
Not yet. You have to die first.
We won't be allowed to have any Walmarts on it, though. Unfortunately, I could be the king of a planet, but I better hope
You're
Jeff
telling me
Bezos allows me to put an Amazon.
We have to have Target.
I don't want this planet anymore.
What do you mean? I have to have a giant eagle?
Okay.
Bullshit.
Sorry, my son needed his movie restarted.
It's all good. We kept the conversation lively in your absence. We were just talking about this. This has gone longer than we usually go, but it's been not only fun to talk to you, and like we've had a lot of really entertaining conversation, but like
but not at the expense of your experience.
Your experience has also lended. It deserves the time that it's been given for you to talk about. So, I mean, with all of that said, if you wanted to wrap it up, we could, or if there was more that you had as this experience occurred to you, we could keep going, but totally up to you.
I'm fine with continuing going. Like I don't really have like a fear of talking about it. It honestly feels good to talk about it, and we haven't really talked in depth about it. So I mean, if you guys have questions or more things you want to understand and try to help me understand what happened to me a little bit better, and like I don't know. I mean, I don't have an explanation what I saw besides you know, the pale crawlers similarities and Wendigo / skinwalker, whatever, however we want to appropriate that terminology to fit other things. Possibilities. I mean,
to me, it sounds like we need to have a Sasquatchers outing in Boswell and go on a hunt for this thing.
This
like
could
a
be,
real life.
Could be one of our next documentary things that we do after this series that we're starting here in Ohio.
I mean, I can show you guys different things around Boswell and the surrounding area.
We don't need you.
No, whatever.
We're gonna use you as bait.
No, it already knows my scent. If it could smell, I don't know.
It would make a good documentary, I think. I love that the idea that there are these local monsters in our area, and I'm not sure if I texted you or talked to you about this since I discovered it, but I was literally like a week or two ago in physical therapy for my neck, dude. And
here we go with this again.
And my physical
neck, my back.
Finish it.
No.
My physical therapist asked me if I knew about the Dogman sightings, and proceeded to tell me that like a couple of years ago out in Portage, there was a Dogman sighting, and I thought that was interesting, and I wanted to learn more about it. So you know what I did is I jump on my phone while I'm finishing up PT, and I'm searching through. And between 2018 and 2020, there have been like almost 10 recorded Dogman sightings in our area: Portage, Evansburg, Crescent, Johnstown. And these are not things that I had heard about. And this is obviously an interest of mine, an interest of yours. You didn't know about it either. And here there is a database of the amount of Dogman sightings in our area over the last 5 years.
That is something else I wanted to touch on. Okay. So remember how I mentioned I jotted down as much information as I could about my experience as soon as it happened, and like made sure to take like autistically detailed notes, as hyper focused as I could while I was still in the headspace, and put everything down on paper. Where do you go with that information? Because like I was decently in the know, and I didn't know where to turn to. Like, who do you report sightings to? The police? Because they're not going to care.
Right.
Who is like there's no one to turn to.
I have found people now since I've started this show. I have kind of learned of the outlets and the connections that exist for this kind of thing. But, you know, I wouldn't had that knowledge prior to this as well. It came with research and meeting people, and there are organizations that I was unaware of in Pennsylvania that you take this stuff to. There there's we had Daniel Hageman on many episodes ago, and he runs an organization out of Butler. There's a organization that we have not featured yet, but I just scheduled them to appear for an upcoming episode in May, and it's a completely different organization. And I think they're ran out of Pittsburgh. It's called the Center for Unexplained Events, and yeah, man, it's crazy to think that like there are avenues and outlets for this kind of stuff, but until you find yourself, connected to them, you don't know where to turn for that. And that's something, anybody listening I really hope should take that in, is that so many people, and it has changed recently, the perception is getting better publicly. So many people see something like this and they are traumatized by it and keep it to themselves because they don't want to be perceived as crazy. And like I said in the first episode of this show, you saw what you saw, and they saw what they saw. There is credence to that. And just because somebody else's perception of reality can't be molded into what you saw, that does not change the fact that you saw it. And more people need to take that to heart and understand that they're not the ones that owe anybody an explanation for having experienced something that they might call crazy, or that something is beyond our understanding. There are so many things that have always been beyond our understanding, and if we as a society didn't acknowledge them, we wouldn't have grown. At one point humans thought we were the center of the universe, and you were crazy if you thought differently. And we know scientifically, as a matter of fact, we are not. But if it wasn't for people,
no, that's bullshit. That's not true.
I mean, the reality of the situation is that we're all just in the Matrix, and there is no universe at all, right? But it's important that you and your sister and anybody else who have seen anything. I've seen things, and I have been discredited or called silly or crazy. And one of the things about this show that has been really special for me is that I have kind of picked up on things that I have forgotten about or didn't pay attention to. It's not always the UFO experience, but I remembered a pretty traumatic possible ghost encounter that I had in an apartment in Katanning when I was a child. That was completely out of my head until I started having conversations, multiple times a week for this. And I witnessed with my cousin once on Thanksgiving outside in the woods while I was waiting for my ride to pick me up, stereotypical circus music. And we tried to find where this music was coming from, and we couldn't identify where any of this very stereotypical circus music was coming from in the woods outside of my grandfather's property where nobody else exists. Because this place is literally called Grant's Hollow. It was named after my family because only my family lived there. Like, it was insane.
No one outside the bloodline.
Exactly.
You get your kind out of here. But Drew, you do bring up a really good point.
Telling me I'm from bumfuck Egypt. Look at you in your own holler.
We just all come from our own corner of Egypt.
He does bring up a good point though, and my mom had the UFO story from 1968 when she was young. She saw it. And if you want to hear her story, go watch the Long Walk Home or the Weird Walk Home podcast. Sorry, because she actually tells her story on the podcast. I got my mom involved in this stuff. But in 1968, when they came back and after they saw that stuff, like my grandfather, her dad, obviously, was like, nobody can talk about this. Don't tell anybody. They'll think we're crazy. So even now, I think even if people will even at least entertain what you have to say, they might still go back behind closed doors and think you're crazy, but people will at least listen and not call you crazy to your face. But if for some reason you find yourself seeing something and you don't have anybody to talk to us.
Yeah, I'm literally here. I have a whole dude. I have a whole group of people from Reddit who are trying to come on because I've been talking to them and told them
join our group. Tell us a story. Come on our podcast. Yeah,
we're a safe space. I believe that you saw what you saw, and it's okay. And that's something that we're community-based thinkers. It has to be that way, otherwise we're divided and we fall into those humanity driven restrictions that we cannot accept a reality that is different than what we knew is safe or what we're taught in schools or what we read in certain religious books. I'll leave it at that. Like, who knows what that was? I mean, it could be the W word. It could be, some weird veil breaking moment where you got to witness something that was only there for a brief second and kind of went back to that fourth dimension, or get an alien creature. And there's always the possibility that thing, whatever it was, didn't pay any attention to you because it had to drop a deuce. And it was just running to take a dump. And then your whole town decided to spend its summer trying to beat it to death with baseball bats.
Well, it wasn't a summer. It was like over the winter. It was late fall, which, that also adds to the,
just trying to take a shit. You guys wanted to kill it.
You know how Pennsylvania winters used to be back in the day, when it was actually cold outside instead
uphills
degrees.
Both ways.
Yeah, back in my day, we had to chase the naked man monster through 3 feet of snow, uphill through the woods, just to try to shine a flashlight on it and get traumatized by it. Never speak of it again. Back in my day, you had to seek out your own trauma. It didn't just happen because of world events.
It didn't just come to you.
It didn't just show up on your TV.
What's
in the safety of your own home? You had to go find it in the middle of the night.
We had VHS tapes back then.
And it's just,
what is the W word? Is that like wumbo? He, she, we, wumbo?
No, it's Wendigo. Some people don't like to say it.
You're not supposed to say that, dude.
I was making a SpongeBob reference.
I don't get it. Obviously.
How do you not get a SpongeBob reference? Who are you? Why are we friends again?
What are your credentials?
My credentials? I know everything about UFOs.
Are you pretending to be a person?
I'm the creature that you saw. And
hey, can you get on all fours real quick? Let me see how your neck connects to the back of your head. Just as a joke,
I saw all fours last night, but that's.
Do you bend your back when you get over? How fast can you run without bending your legs?
Arch that ass up for us, baby. This got weird. All right.
Yeah. But yeah, so I just
guacamole, anyone?
Yeah, for everybody. I want you to know that I believe what I believe you, and it's not the first time that we've had this conversation. It is the first time I've allowed you to get that in depth, at least in the last 3 or 4 years, however long we've known each other at this point. So, and I want everybody just to take that home with them with this episode. That
and the trauma too.
Yeah, and here's something I want everyone to take home with them. I don't give a flying fuck if you believe me or not. I believe me, and that my sister, who also saw it, also believes me. And it's not about you believing me. It's anyone else who had something like that happening to them believing in themselves. Like, you're not nuts if that's a concern. If anyone else has seen anything like this, I would like an explanation, because it doesn't even match the other paranormal weird things that I've seen. And I've done a good bit of research on the topic, trying to figure out what I saw. And I'm sure Andrew and John would love to hear from other people who have maybe seen something similar, because it doesn't even seem to fit the status quo for the paranormal, which is saying something. So
yeah, that's one of the main things that really sticks out about it is very intensely unique to you. And so
maybe that's by design. Maybe that was something you
I hope not. I really hope that's not the case.
maybe on your deathbed it will revisit you.
It's coming back. It's whispering sweet nothings into my ear. Maybe that's why I haven't had a good night's sleep in I don't even know how many years. Probably since
that
then.
wonderful pillow talk.
That's where the depression came from. Makes sense.
Yes.
At least we figured that out.
And that's what we do. We solve problems here on Sasquatchers.
We're problem solvers. Absolutely.
But I think for everybody's mental health, I will stop forcing you to relive this trauma right now, but I want you to know that I intend to drag you back onto this show again. And
I think there's more to talk about for sure.
We can discuss this further. We can get into some of the other paranormal stuff. I know from years of talking with you that we can literally chat for hours and hours about everything paranormal. So this is the open invitation that I've given you since day one. As soon as we can make another episode happen, we're going to make it happen. And I look forward to that. I appreciate that you came on and told this story, despite the fact that it is traumatizing. And I want everybody to continue to listen to our show. Like, subscribe, follow, hit the likes, hit the little stupid bells, all the whistles that comes along with this. The part about doing this type of job that I hate is begging for stars and ratings, but please do it. Our John Doe doesn't really have anything to promote, so I'm just going to continue to beg anybody listening to do that for us. And we'll
if
be
you
able
have seen the brush crawler, please come forward with your story, I guess, because I want to know.
Yes, please reach out.
It'll be interesting when you put that picture of that artistic rendition of it up, if anybody else has a similar sighting or experience.
Right. I don't know when the name switched, because like at the time everyone just called it the Rake. I don't know where this is like the name for it now. I don't know if someone stepped in with copyright law or something, but I guess someone must still be talking about it for it to have developed a name.
Well, I can speak from experience that I have seen other people talking about this crawler in the area. And I don't know if that's a side effect of the mass hysteria that you guys went through, or if it is more actual sightings, but there is a person that I will try to go back and find their posts online who is putting a database together, and maybe they might be able to do some type of, librarying for you to share that information. That could be the next step in your research and discovering what this is. But if you are that person, reach out to me, reach out to JC. We both have Facebooks and social media dedicated to our show personas, as long as the Coalition for Critical Thinking and Bigfoot Research people stop. Stop harassing me online.
I'm banned from that group. So
as long as they stop getting me shadow banned, I'm able to post and be interacted with. So let's unite together as one unified paranormal group who can come together and talk about this stuff while also insinuating that I have guacamole in my underwear and that I look good on all fours, which both of those happened tonight, and we're not going to take that away from me. And so with that,
on second thought, I don't
you,
know which was the more traumatizing experience at this point.
and we'll never know.
Squatch you later.
Thanks for squatching.